It has now been 3 decades of Arch Enemy, and in that time, the band has had a total of 3 different vocalists: Johan Liiva, Angela Gossow, and most recently, Alissa White-Gluz, and some interesting history with all of the vocalists, even after the first 2 were no longer a part of the band. So with the recent news that the band and Alissa White-Gluz have parted ways, I thought it would be fun to take a look at all 3 of the Arch Enemy vocalists over the years and see exactly how we got to where we are now. Arch Enemy was formed in 1995 with the original lineup of the band consisting of Michael and Christopher Amott on guitars, with Michael also playing bass on the first album, drummer Daniel Erlandson, and vocalist Johan Liiva. And with that lineup, they released the debut Arch Enemy album in 1996 called Black Earth, and with some various shifts in the lineup over the course of the next few years, Johan Liiva would remain in the band for the following 2 studio albums, 1998's Stigmata and Burning Bridges in 1999, before his eventual departure from the band in 2000, when he was actually fired from Arch Enemy shortly after work began on the band's 4th album, Wages of Sin, when Johan basically received a letter of termination from Michael Amott, which he detailed to Brave Words in a 2002 interview where he said, "To be as honest as possible, it was pretty simple. We started rehearsing in the fall of 2000 for the Wages of Sin album. A few days after my first rehearsal, I was supposed to get a tape with the songs to start writing lyrics. Instead, I got a letter from Mike Amott saying, 'We have decided to try out a new singer. We wish you the best. Good luck.' I didn't understand anything. It was unexpected. Anyway, I tried to get in touch with Michael. I called him and finally he picked up the phone. There were a lot of explanations, but none of them really made sense to me. I still don't really know what happened. I don't think it was personal, but you never know. It gets so strange when you talk to someone you had a friendship with. It's like breaking up. They wanted to get rid of me and, as they said themselves, go to a higher level. What could I do? I didn't even try to defend myself. Michael said it wasn't just him, it was everybody in the band who wanted this." Now, since Johan has been out of Arch Enemy for the last 25 years now, he has had a couple of other projects. He had the band Hearse. There was another project called Non-Exist, but nothing he was a part of ever came close to the success that Arch Enemy would eventually go on to have. However, there was a sort of reunion between Johan and the rest of the original Arch Enemy lineup, and they joined forces in 2016 and did some touring over the next few years under the name of Black Earth, where they performed songs exclusively from the first 3 Arch Enemy albums, which is of course all of the albums that Johan Liiva appeared on. So all appears to be well between everyone these days, which is a great thing to see, of course. But let's go back to 2000 when he was let go from the band, and very shortly after, it was announced that Angela Gossow would be taking over fronting Arch Enemy. Of course, Angela is basically what most fans would consider to be the quote-unquote classic Arch Enemy vocalist. And the way that Angela joined Arch Enemy is pretty interesting, because if you go back about a year before she joined, so somewhere around 1999 when Johan was still in the band, she actually interviewed Michael Amott for a German publication, and then during the interview, I guess, she gave Michael a demo which contained a video of her performing at a club, I assume with one of her pre-Arch Enemy bands, Asmodina, or more likely the band Mistress. I believe that was her band right up until she joined Arch Enemy. So they ended up eventually calling her in to audition for Arch Enemy. Needless to say, Angela got the gig, and she would go on to appear on 5 Arch Enemy studio albums: Wages of Sin in 2001, Anthems of Rebellion in 2003, 2005's Doomsday Machine, Rise of the Tyrant in 2007, and Chaos Legions in 2011. And at some point during Angela's tenure with Arch Enemy, she also became the band's manager, a position which she would retain when she ultimately left the band in 2014, and to this day, 2025, she is still Arch Enemy's manager. But at the time in 2014 when she left the band, she stated that she wanted to spend more time with family and pursue some other interests outside of the band, saying in part in her statement at that time, "Dear Arch Enemy fans, this is not easy to tell you. I have decided to step down from being Arch Enemy's voice of anger. After 13 years of pure fucking metal, 6 studio albums, and countless tours through 5 continents, I feel the need to enter a different phase in my life, be with my family, and pursue other interests. I will, however, remain business manager for Arch Enemy, and I will continue to develop my artist management roster. Since Angela's departure as the vocalist of Arch Enemy now over a decade ago, she has remained very, very busy with management, not only of Arch Enemy, but a number of other artists as well, between Alpha Management United and Cult Management, both companies which she's a part of. I think Cult Management is her own. I could be wrong on that though. But musically, she hasn't really done a whole lot since her exit from Arch Enemy, aside from a couple of guest appearances here and there, including with Amaranth on the song Do or Die on their 2020 album Manifest. And I am filming this video the day after it was announced that Alissa White-Gluz is no longer a part of Arch Enemy, and her replacement still has yet to be announced. So right now, speculation and hopes are at an all-time high for Angela to make her return to the band, and it is worth pointing out that at least on one occasion since she stepped down as the vocalist of Arch Enemy, Angela has expressed interest in doing another extreme metal project, telling Hard Force in a 2017 interview, "I want to do a new extreme metal project, but that will happen when everything with Arch Enemy and Alissa is over and everyone is sailing in calmer waters. I suppose I'll have that time in 2018 when we finished the first series of headlining tours and everything else. I'll do it when the time is right." Now look, does one quote from Angela back in 2017 imply that she's going to once again become the vocalist of Arch Enemy in 2025 or 2026? Absolutely not, of course not, but at the very least, she has at least at one point expressed an interest in returning to the stage, so until a new vocalist for Arch Enemy is announced, we will keep our fingers crossed. But let's jump back to Angela's departure in 2014, which came after the band's 9th studio album, War Eternal, had already been announced but not yet released when her departure was announced. And if you know anything at all about the history of Arch Enemy, you know that it was also, in fact, Angela Gossow who suggested the next vocalist that should take her place. That, of course, being the band's most recent vocalist, Alissa White-Gluz. Alissa, of course, came from the band The Agonists, which she was a founding member of, going all the way back to the days when they were called Tempest. And she had apparently been friends with Angela Gossow for some time before she got the invite to join Arch Enemy. As Angela said in her statement of her departure back in 2014, "I am staying true to my heavy metal roots, just leaving the spotlight, so to speak. I am passing the torch to the super talented Alissa White-Gluz, whom I've known as a dear friend and a superb vocalist for many years. I always thought she deserved a chance to shine, and now she's getting it, just like I got that chance back in 2001. So Alissa, of course, would remain the front woman of Arch Enemy from 2014 up until November of 2025, and would go on to appear on 4 studio albums with the band. Her debut on War Eternal in 2014, Will to Power in 2017, 2022's Deceivers, and then Blood Dynasty in 2025. And out of all 3 of the vocalists that Arch Enemy has had over the last 3 decades, Alissa has hands down been the one to pursue the most things outside of Arch Enemy. She's had guest appearances on countless different projects over the years, and now that she's out of the band, it seems that her focus, at least for the time being, is on her solo career, as she has now released the first single from her upcoming debut solo album, which she has certainly wanted to do for quite some time, because it was announced all the way back in 2016 that she had a record deal with Napalm Records for her solo stuff under the name Alissa. So we'll see how that all develops as time goes on. It appears though that she is still on Napalm for the time being, so I would imagine this upcoming project is a part of Napalm Records. No reason for her exit from Arch Enemy was given by either her or the band, so it is unclear exactly what happened. However, it is worth pointing out that the parties do not follow each other on social media, which of course is not the end-all be-all. It's not, you know, the de facto sign of anything, but just for example, like I pointed out in my video when Alissa left the band, as an example, Arch Enemy does still follow Jeff Loomis, who's been out of the band for a little bit now, so take that for what you will. But that is, in a nutshell, a quick rundown of all 3 of Arch Enemy's vocalists over the years. I figured, really, what better time to do this than now, and also get caught up on everything in preparation for this upcoming next chapter of Arch Enemy. If you're watching this video before they announce who their new vocalist will be, let me know who you think it could be down below. Do you see a possibility where Angela returns to the band, or even Johan for that matter? Let me know. Otherwise, hit me with anything Arch Enemy related down in the comments. But that is all that I got for you for right now. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to drop a like and subscribe below if you feel like it, and I'll see you next time.